Okie dokie, everybody. We're going to be getting into topic 2.3, which is all about cell size. You want to go and take a look. You can pause the video to go and take a look at the essential knowledges. Basically, the whole too long didn't read of this is that cells like to be really, really small. The reason why is that when they are small, they are more efficient at staying alive and doing their jobs. And this is going to be a lot of pictures and diagrams, and we're going to be explaining this stuff. There is also going to be some math that I'm going to go show you in a little bit, and we're going to go and show you where that is on the uh, equation sheet when we end up going over it next class. Now, the equations, you do not need to write them down. Again, you will always have the equation sheet. However, it would maybe just be a benefit to just kind of follow along when I start doing them at the cube, and then you can basically just translate this concept to all the other different types of calculations that you'll do. Right, so we're trying to maximize this thing called surface area to volume ratio. It allows us to get the good stuff in and get the bad stuff out, right? Obtaining nutrients, eliminating waste, and then there's just a bunch of different factors that we have to take a look at. Also, cells end up specializing their design in order to be able to maximize their surface area to volume ratio, which we'll show you in a little while. All right, you can pause the video if you'd like to right here, but basically these are just showing you your different equations, but I want to kind of make you aware of something, okay? Now this is on the equation sheet, but I want you to see, right, you have volume, 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 and then you'll have surface area, surface area, surface area. Whenever you do these calculations, we're always doing surface area to volume. Right, and what I'm going to end up doing is showing you it with the cube, and then you're basically just always having to go and pull the surface area and then the volume, and then basically what you're trying to do is make this like the best ratio or the biggest ratio you can possibly do. It'll make a lot of sense. Now, I want to start off with a little bit of a thought experiment, and I want you to think about this for a second. What is the biggest cell that you've ever seen, or how big do you think cells normally get? After thinking about that, you might be thinking to yourself, huh, like cells, like I can't see them with the naked eye. You can't. You're going to have to go and use a microscope, right? So we end up using the microscope in order to go and take a look at our living cells, right? Our plant and our animal cells. There's also some protists that are also in this area, and maybe some bacteria we can use a light microscope for. But then we can end up using electron microscopes, and here we can get a lot better pictures of like organelles, of our bacteria, and we can even start to see viruses at this point, right? If we want to go super, super crazy, you can start to see the lipids and the proteins and stuff like that, but that's beyond the scope of what we want to do. We really want to focus on this, right? So why is it, right? We ask ourselves, why is it that cells need to be small? Well, this picture right here is the textbook scenario or the textbook information that you need to be aware of it. Okay, and we're going to really be diving deep into this. So what I'm going to recommend that you do is that you're going to want to go ahead and copy like this picture like in here with the different size cubes, and you would maybe probably also get this stuff here about the surface area and volume, and then us being able to see the ratios, right? Now, earlier I ended up asking you or saying to you that the best surface area to volume ratio is what our cells are always trying to strive for. So I want you to go take a look of the options, right? The 1 millimeter cube, the 2 millimeter cube, the 4 millimeter cube. Which one has the best surface area or the highest surface area to volume ratio? And if you're able to see 6 to 1, right? 6 to 1 is higher than 3 to 1, and 3 to 1 is higher than 1.5 to 1. So what we're saying is that this right here, like this is the ideal, right? This is the best thing. So when we are making our cubes, we're trying to make them as small as possible because that is maximizing the surface area to volume ratio. Okay, so that's what we want to really be focusing on. Now, what we notice is that the volume will be increasing much faster than the surface area. And we can end up doing this with this calculation here, right? So we can see that we have a 1 millimeter cube, 2, and then 4. Okay, what I can kind of do is actually visually show you this. And you can write this down if you want to, but honestly, like I think this just kind of hits home and being able to address what's happening here. Okay, so if I go to take a look, right, a 1 millimeter cube, or it could be centimeters, doesn't really matter. The unit does not matter here. But we get the 6 to 1 ratio, right? because when we're calculating this, it's going to be the surface area. And the surface area of a cube, if you go back to the equation, it's just basically length times width times the number of sides, right? The sides. So a cube will have 6 sides, right? Like a 6-sided die. So in this is 1 times 1 times 6, which is equal to 6. Boom. Like that's how we calculate that number right there. Volume for a cube is length times width times height. So what ends up happening here is that, okay, well, 1 times 1 times 1 is equal to 1. Okay, so I got 6 to 1. 6 to 1, that's the ratio right there. That's literally all we're doing with these calculations. It's not anything too terribly hard. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, wait a second, you talked about this whole thing about the volume increasing faster than the surface area. Well, show us this, right? Okay, well, here's the thing I want to go and do. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and scrub this out, right? So we kind of understand the calculation part about this now, right? This is a 6 to 1. Okay, if I end up doing the 2 millimeter cube, if I calculate, right, the 2 times 2 times 6, and then the 2 times 2 times 2, you're going to end up getting 24 to 8, which you can simplify to 3 to 1, which is what we have right here. Okay, like 24, if 24 divided by 8 is 3, so it's a 3 to 1 ratio. If we were to do the 3, we didn't write that down, but if you were to do the 3, it's a 2 to 1 ratio. I guarantee you can do the math, and you'll do like 3 times 3 times 3, and then like 3 times 3 times 6, right? Now, what you should notice is if we start to actually kind of see a pattern here, right? Whoa, I got to go back. Where'd it go? All right, cool. I just hit the back. I had the back one by accident. All right, so we should see a pattern here, right? So it's going like 1 times 1 times 6. Then it's 2 times 2 times 6. Then it's 3 times 3 times 6. And then 4 times 4 times 6. Well, eventually we're going to get to 6 times 6 times 6. And then it'll be 6 times 6 times 7. And then 6 times 6 times 8. Okay, so what we can see is that it's slowly getting to the point that now the length and the height of these guys has now matched and surpassed the number of sides, which is why the surface area, right, at this point, it kind of caps out. All right, it caps out. It caps out because it's like I can only have it be multiplied by 6 at any point in time. But now what I'm going to go do is, oh, darn, I didn't mean to do get rid of it all, right? So we said I wanted to do 6 times 6 times 6, 6 times 7 times 7, and then 8 times 8 times 6. It's basically, right, the number of sides, the surface area. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to just quickly do like volume and kind of show you something. It's actually kind of wacky or weird how it goes, right? So go to volume, right? And the volume here, right, is like 1 times 1 times 1, 2 times 2 times 2, 3, 4 times 4 times 4. So we did like 5 times 5 times 5, and this would have been like 5 times 5 times 6 for the surface area, right? So this number, this surface area, is still higher than that value right there. But at 6 meters or 6 centimeters, they're equaling the same. So that's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio at that point, right? It's 1-to-1. But then when you go to here, it's 7 times 7 times 7, and then 8 times 8 times 8. And now what we just visually just showed you is that this number is forever going to be stuck at 6. It always has 6 sides. So no matter what, the volume is going to be going like exponentially up, while like the surface area, it still goes up, but it's limited by this 6. It's stuck there. So this is what we mean by the volume increases way, way, way faster, right? And again, we're trying to maximize the surface area to volume ratio. So we want this to be as high as possible. Over here in this scenario, we're at 1-to-1. This is awful. This is not going to work at all. Your cells are going to die if they are at a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So we try to limit it, right? We try to keep small so that way we are maximizing our surface area to volume ratio. If you're confused by that, please ask questions when we're going over this stuff in class. But that's the basic like shtick of what's actually happening, right? And we're going to explain what the surface area to volume basically means, but the math is that's what we're trying to maximize, right? So this is what we're saying. As you're getting bigger, right? I want you to think about this. There's a baby and there is you. Who's going to eat more food like throughout the day? You should probably be saying you are, right? You're definitely going to be the one that's going to be eating more food. You need more resources. You're bigger, right? There's more stuff for you to have to go take care of, right? So when you are bigger, right? So this just kind of gives you an idea, right? If you are bigger, you need more food, okay? And now, not only that, but if you eat more, what are you also going to be producing? You're going to be producing waste. So now you are, as you are bigger, you're increasing the amount of food that you need, and you're also increasing the amount of waste you need to get rid of. Okay. This is the problem with big cells and big surface area to volume ratios. They don't have the ability to get this stuff in and out. Everything just is going to end up taking longer. And this could basically end up causing cell death. And this is actually a really kind of fascinating idea. And I always draw this picture to kind of visually show how this stuff works. Now, I'm going to go back to like the previous scenario when I had like the 1 millimeter cube and then like the 2 millimeter cube, right? And I always do this picture, and I would super recommend that you end up getting this picture written down. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards for a second. Let me do this and do this, and I want you to draw this. Okay, so imagine that the 1 millimeter cube looks like this. Okay, I want you to draw that box. All right, please just draw the box. Just you do it. I'm telling you, it's going to help. I promise. Okay, 2 millimeter cube. You're going to do basically a 2 by 2 grid, right? It's two. So what we're basically doing is that we are right. What we're basically doing is that here is our eye. We're looking at the cube from just like the flat side. So we're just looking at it like dead on, right? And then the 4 by 4. For the sake of this, let's just call it a 3 because I just want to go ahead and make a 3 by 3 because the 3 by 3 like really just takes it home, right? Okay, here's what we're gonna go say. All right, what I want to go do is that son of a gun. All right, 1 second. I'm like not used to doing this like all the time. Hey, all right, we're there. All right, so what we'll do is that I'm going to go ahead and put this little green nugget in the middle. Okay, this little green nugget in the middle of a cell is very important. Basically, this means that this is like I need food, right? Maybe it's like it's a mitochondria, right? It's a mitochondria. The mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell. Don't call it that. All right, it's the mitochondria. It's right there. It's not really. It'd be way more, but just humor me. All right, it's mitochondria needs sugar. Okay, now I'm not going to touch the thing because I know I have to go touch the guy over here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and make some food. I'll make the food blue. All right, now watch this. Okay, now your food can diffuse, means it can go into the cell, but it can only travel half a millimeter. That's all it can do. It can only travel half a millimeter. That's all it can do. All right, only half. Well, if I end up going in from this side, right, the left side, well, the food can go halfway through, right, because it's a 1 millimeter square. So I get to the mitochondria. Okay, well, what happens if I go this way? Well, I'll be able to get to the middle is there. What about if I go from the top? Oh, that still works. And the bot. Okay, so what we can see here is that when the cube is 1 millimeter cube, and I'm going at this rate right here, I can get to the center, no problem. Let's go see what happens when I now do the 2 millimeter, right? I can still only go half a millimeter, and this is a, they're 1 millimeter each, right? Well, if I'm only able to go half, I can only go halfway through. Okay, that didn't work out. I'm gonna go this way. Can still only go halfway through. All right, I'm gonna go from the top, only halfway through, and from the bottom it's only halfway through. So I can't even get to the mitochondria in order to get the sugar that it needs. So like literally, I cannot even get there. I can't even get the stuff to where it needs to go. And this problem is only exacerbated like when you're even that much bigger. Like I'm not even in the center of the cell at this point. If I go and do my half a millimeter in any direction right there, right? So this is why we like to be small. It allows the stuff to be able to get to where it needs to go efficiently. And now let's say that this green stuff hypothetically was not mitochondria, but maybe it was waste, and I had to go and leave the cell now. Well, now in the first scenario, I can leave at half a millimeter like rate, and I get out of the cell, no problem. But if I'm here, well, I'm not actually going to be able to make it to the edge, and then this thing is still producing waste, and then like it's accumulating, and then this one just accumulates waste and just can't get rid of it. So what I'm trying to get you to be aware of is that this is why the things are trying to maximize their surface area to volume ratio. That's why they're trying to maximize the amount of space that's interacting with the outside world compared to how much space it actually takes up. Like that's literally what surface area and volume like literally just mean at that point. So I'm going to slide 7 now. This is basically just showing you like I literally just kind of showed you this, right? So we got to go see that one cell was super useful, but this 5 cell is not going to work whatsoever. So how does your body compensate? Well, instead of just making gigantic cells, I'm not going to go do that. Instead, I'm just going to make a bunch of little itty bitty tiny cells. And guess what? Each one of these little tiny cubes has a 6-to-1 ratio, and even that one has a 6-to-1 ratio, and even this one has a 6-to-1 ratio, right? So you're maximizing the surface area so that you are able to get still the same surface area to volume ratio as you did if you were just by yourself. So, and that's just how the math ends up checking out, right? So this, we do not want to be big. We just want to have a lot of small things. This is great. This is gonna make your cells like super happy. Like, there's a joke, a running joke in my AP bio class where it's just like big things die. And we'll talk about like why the dinosaurs died and their evolution. That big things die. It's kind of a it's just it's really funny. Like it's just like a funny background story with it. But it's funny where we end up saying like, yeah, that's kind of like a common thing where like if you're big and like the environment changes, like or you can't keep up with it, you just die. So it's just like not a good time. It's like, bleh. All right, a little bit off topic stuff, right? Okay, so again, just the whole specific thing you got to keep in mind, right? As a cell gets bigger, its demand for resources also increases. So, you know what be easier? Like let's just keep everything small so that way we can manage it, right? And we don't overload our cells. There's like lots of other little tiny nuggets of stuff that happens in there, but we won't have to go into too much detail. Now, what's really cool, and this is something that's so neat, is that cells have unique ways of getting around these issues, right? So it's like I need to be big, but I can't like I need to maximize like more surface area. So what do they do? Well, this is specifically in plants, and this is specifically in roots. If you think about a plant, I don't know if you've ever actually pulled like a root out, but or if you ever weeded, but before, right? But if you pull weeds, and if you can pull it down from the root, you should actually go take a look, and you're gonna go see that your root, like when you pull your flower out, right, and you pull out the little root system, right, and you have like the roots of the flower like right there. Well, what you end up finding is that your plant is going to have a lot of these little tiny like projections like coming out of it, right? And these things right here, these are root hairs. That's just basically this stuff right here. And the intent behind it is that it's maximizing the surface area and maintaining as much of the same volume as possible. And what's cool about this is that it allows for more water to be able to be absorbed by the plant, and because it's like there's more space for the water to mosey on into, and then once the water is inside of the plant, then we go into the movement of water and stuff, and it ends up going in and goes up into the stem, and everything is good to go, right? This same idea is actually takes place in you. This is your digestive tract. Specifically the small intestines. Something cool I like to always do with my anatomy and physiology class, I kind of show the surface area to volume ratio happening, right? Imagine, right? Let's just kind of like use our imagination, just say that these are just cells that are lining the inside of your small intestines, and let's just say like they just look like that, right? Well, the only itty bitty bit of surface area that's actually able to interact with the food is here, right? Like, because if the food is here, right, it can only hit that spot right there. Now let's go ahead and say like, well, you know what I'm going to go do instead? I want to do something funky, and I'm just going to go ahead and make my little boxy shape, but I'm going to go and give my cell like hair, right? And basically what they're doing, like to give you like a close-up image, right? If we had a magnifying glass to see like what the heck is going on. Basically what happens is that you are having all this little tiny like wavy bits right here, right? This like cilia like stuff, right? And what's happening is that when the food is moving its way through the digestive tract, well, it can hit any of these areas and we can increase the surface area. And the benefit to this is that if you were to take like a piece of string, right? And I mean, if you have a string and you just trace this string like all the way here, 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 and here, and then you pull the string out, like you're gonna find it's like super, super, super long. But if you were to do the same thing with like, you know, this guy and it was like that right there, well, it would just be like a flat line, and maybe that's all you would end up having. So this actually allows you to increase your surface area, and this is what organisms do, like multicellular organisms do, in order to really like kind of like do that, maximizing the surface area to volume ratios. It's really really cool. It's really fascinating that your cells have like these tiny little adaptations. There you go, evolution, folks. Yes, like my favorite stuff. They have these little tiny adaptations for that. Mm. This middle picture that you see right here, this is a stomata. This is just used in order for gas exchange for plants. I'm not going to get into too much of the weeds about it. I think the hair cells as well as the digestive tract does a good job of illustrating those that information. Um, but anyway, well, going back into the somatas, right? I So what we can end up doing is finding ways to kind of do we can maybe call them cheat codes and stuff. So what some adaptations you can have these stomatas that are there in order to allow the surface area to volume ratio to change for like split seconds or something in order to get the stuff in or out. So in the case here, we're trying to do a heat exchange. So you're gonna go find this like in all your plants like at night and stuff. So and yeah, I mean, gang, like that's pretty much it. Like organisms will do what they can in order to maximize their ability to uh, increase their surface area to volume ratios, right? Whether that be finger projections to be able to, go grab onto food or keep themselves in the ground or what have you. There's just lots of really cool nuggets of information in there for how cells work. But regardless, our task that we're going to go forward now with is that we're doing some calculations with surface area volume ratio. We'll go play with spheres and cubes and stuff like that, so you can kind of understand like how maybe some shapes are a little bit better than others. And then our task is that I'm going to have you design your own cell that's maximizing the surface area to volume ratio. So you're going to go basically get like a gelatinous goop, and you're going to go and sculpt a cell, and we're going to go see who probably has the best cell in the classroom. So you'll have like I'll explain how it ends up going because we'll be able to figure out the volume regardless. So that being said, I am looking forward to seeing y'all, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.